As I stood at the end of the long banquet table, surrounded by the splendor of the annual family meeting at the vineyard, I felt my stomach twist into knots. The sun streamed in through the large windows, illuminating the magnificent bottles lined up for the tasting. Despite the grandeur of the event, I couldn't shake off the anxious energy creeping in like a shadow. This was supposed to be a celebration, an opportunity for camaraderie and pride. Yet my heart raced with trepidation at the thought of facing Renata. Then, as if choreographed by an unseen hand, Renata lifted her glass high above the table, her voice cutting through the pleasant murmur like a knife. "To the Rossi family's tradition," she announced, and the others raised their glasses in unison, their laughter ringing in my ears. But when her gaze fell upon me, her smile twisted into a patronizing smirk. "Lucrezia should stick to being pretty and leave the winemaking to the experts," she declared, her tone laced with condescension. Heat flooded my face as laughter erupted around the table, each chuckle a piercing reminder of my apparently inconsequential role in this illustrious family. Renata's words hung like a heavy curtain, blocking out any light of validation I might have hoped to claim. I could feel Cecilia's eyes on me too, filled with a mix of faux sympathy and unspoken agreement with her mother. The weight of their stares made it hard to breathe, and I could almost feel the heat of humiliation inching up my neck. In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to blend into the walls, to disappear into the vibrant decor that surrounded me. The lush floral centerpieces and glistening bottles screamed celebration, yet I felt an unfamiliar bitterness coating my tongue. I was trapped in a lavish prison, one that mocked my every attempt to belong. "My name is Lucrezia, I'm 38, married to Marco for 5 years, and in this family, I'm still an outsider." Despite my countless efforts to win their approval, I often felt like I was grasping at shadows, forever out of reach. Renata certainly knew how to wield her power. Her actions were calculated. She was the self-proclaimed matriarch who believed the legacy of Rossi Vineyards depended solely on her. Meanwhile, I was merely a footnote in a story that had long been written before I had the chance to add my chapter. Each dismissive comment chipped away at my confidence, and doubts began to swirl in my mind, casting a dark haze over the festive atmosphere. Yet as I looked around, observing the others reveling in the moment, something within me began to ignite. The ember of defiance sparked and flared. One day, they will see me for who I truly am. I felt a surge of determination slashing through the heaviness. I would not allow this mockery to define me. I would carve out my own path within this family. Inhaling deeply, I steadied my resolve. I won't let her belittle me any longer. Even if it meant following a harder road, I would gain respect, recognition, and a rightful place among them. My heart thundered in rhythm with my thoughts, a promise whispered to myself over the laughter echoing in the air. I will not be undermined. I will rise. Looking back, their laughter feels distant, like a joyous melody to which I never learned the dance. Memories of my early days with the Rossi family flooded my mind, each moment tinged with the sharp bitterness of disapproval. The flashbacks were vivid, the settings familiar yet alien, as if I were a ghost watching from the sidelines of my own life. I remembered the first family dinner I attended after marrying Marco. The long oak table gleamed under the soft glow of chandeliers, generations of Rossi traditions wrapping around us like a warm embrace. But my own heart raced with anxiety, and I felt like a deep-sea diver, submerged in waters too deep and dark to navigate. I had dressed in my best clothes, rehearsed my introductions in front of the bathroom mirror, but once seated, the laughter turned into a cacophony, and I found myself yearning for the familiar comfort of my own family. Renata had leaned in, her voice smooth and dripping with condescension. "Marco, darling, did you see how overwhelmed Lucrezia looks? She really doesn't know how to pair a wine, does she?" The laughter that followed was sharp, echoing in my ears like a taunt. I could feel the temperature rise in my cheeks as my stomach twisted. The weight of their amusement felt like lead in my gut. I searched the table for a friendly face, but all I found were approving nods and shared glances among the family members, reinforcing my outsider status. Every subsequent encounter was an echo of that initial humiliation. Renata's comments, though crafted as concerns, sliced through my confidence like a well-honed blade. She would often turn to me with feigned sweetness. "Dear, are you sure you want to give that blend a try? Perhaps you should leave it to the experts. And there it was again. Her belief that my talents were a mere fantasy, a fleeting whim that didn't belong to the legacy of winemaking that the Rossi family embodied. Cecilia, ever the faithful echo of her mother, often chimed in, her laughter hanging in the air like a cloud of gas that made it harder for me to breathe. Oh, Lucrezia, maybe you should focus on decor instead of attempting to create the next great blend. It's a niche rather than, well, you know. Her comments always felt like an insidious reminder that no matter how hard I tried, I would never quite fit in. I desperately sought solace in my own achievements and strength. Despite the humiliation, the Rossi family didn't know about the years I had spent at my own family's vineyard, learning the intricacies of vine care and flavor profiles. I would often stay up late, tinkering with blends and writing notes in my journal, honing my skills unnoticed. I remembered the first time my family held a small tasting at our vineyard. A few loyal patrons had praised my blend, recognizing a spark of potential in my veins. It felt so far removed from the dismissive laughter echoing from the Rossi table, but it kept my hope alive. But that hope seemed hopelessly overshadowed by the Rossi perceptions. Each dinner was a ritual of facade. While I attempted to showcase my knowledge of wine and blends, every mention was greeted with raised eyebrows, polite nods that had no weight behind them, and occasional reminders that my opinion mattered little. I felt, increasingly, like a jigsaw piece that never quite clicked into place within the family puzzle. These subtle yet repetitive indignities laid the groundwork for deeper frustrations. I would practice my words in the privacy of my room, rehearsing how to present my newest blend at the next gathering, hopeful that this time my contribution would be received with open arms. But every time I found the courage to present my ideas, Renata would effortlessly dismiss them, redirecting the conversation to her own creations. It began to dawn on me that these tensions were part of a much larger, long-standing pattern of exclusion and invalidation. I was not merely facing isolated incidents. I was swimming against a current of generational attitudes that sought to maintain a strict hierarchy within the family. Each year, these gatherings added layers to my resolve. I would analyze every word exchanged, every glance thrown my way as I pieced together the narrative of power dynamics at play. When Marco leaned back with a chuckle at one of his mother's digs, my heart sank deeper, trapped between the tide of his allegiance and the wreckage left by his mother's condescension. Then came the day I decided that enough was enough. I felt a change brewing within me, a whisper growing into a clarion call. Regardless of Renata's laughter or Cecilia's passivity, I knew I possessed a talent they had overlooked. The ability to create remarkable blends that could not only match but exceed their expectations. It was time for them to recognize my worth. The awareness of my own skill began to shift my mindset. I started quietly crafting several blends, taking meticulous notes and conducting my own tastings, striving for that elusive perfection. My focus and determination ignited a spark of hope in me, transforming the past humiliations into a fuel that only stoked my ambition. As I reached this realization, the cycle of frustration morphed into a craving for recognition. I would bring forth my best creations and one day, I would earn my rightful place in this family. But first, I needed to confront the shadows that had covered my light for too long. It was time to reclaim my narrative. Standing in the cool, dimly lit cellar of my vineyard, I inhaled deeply, allowing the familiar scent of aging oak barrels to envelop me. Yet beneath that comforting aroma lay layers of my anxiety and determination. My gaze roamed over the rows of barrels. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were silently judging my worth within the Rossi family. Renata had set the bar high, with her unwavering standards looming over me like a shadow. I knew I had to redefine my status, to examine the dynamics that had made me feel like an outsider for too long. My realization began quietly. I started to document the moments of ridicule from Renata and Cecilia in a small notebook, my family log. Each dismissive comment felt like a betrayal, but writing them down transformed my pain into power. I meticulously noted every condescending remark, each mocking smile that accompanied their words, finding solace in this cathartic exercise. With every inked entry, I began to unravel the complex web of disapproval that had kept me silenced. I knew knowledge was power, and understanding their patterns could be my way to navigate through the intricate family dynamics. The pivotal moment came when I overheard Renata speaking to Marco one evening. "You must keep an eye on Lucrezia. Her ambition doesn't suit our family." Her voice, smooth yet sharp, slithered through the air and pierced my heart. I felt a familiar ache, but amidst it, a fire began to burn brighter within me. I could not let her sow seeds of doubt into my aspirations any longer. The narrative would change from that moment on. The family gathering that weekend was a stage, one where I could seize my moment. I rehearsed how I would present my ideas to the family, each word weighed with significance. When the opportunity arose, I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins as I spoke. To my surprise, their gazes shifted from skepticism to something akin to curiosity. A flicker of recognition passed through the room when I shared my latest blend. Marco even managed a proud smile. Could it be that they were actually listening? A small rush of triumph surged through me, but as quickly as that exhilaration came, it was followed by Renata's icy chill. When I spoke of my innovations, she deftly undermined my words. "Tradition must never be compromised for the sake of rash experimentation, dear." The reminder of my outsider status sent a pang of disappointment slicing through my chest. Each comment felt like a wooden stake driven through my ambition. For every small victory, it seemed there lurked an equally painful setback, a push and pull that drained my spirit. Yet I refused to be deterred. The nearer the festival drew, the more resolute I became in honing my craft. My evenings turned into a series of late-night tastings and revisions, blending flavors that reflected my determination. Grapes crushed beneath my fingers, creating smooth, textured mixtures filled with care and passion. I channeled every emotion into my work, reshaping my vision of the perfect blend into something beautiful, a blend that I was proud of. As I threw myself into this creative process, I began to notice small shifts in my family's dynamic. Some relatives were starting to engage more, asking about my work, some even offering kind compliments about my recent endeavors. This newfound interest spurred me on, fueling my ambition and fortifying my belief that I could contribute meaningfully to our family legacy. Though Renata's cold stare remained, I grew increasingly undeterred. I embraced the tensions, feeling a giddiness coursing through me at the thought of revealing my true self. Yet with progress came the intricate dance of family expectations. I sensed Renata's scrutiny intensifying, as if she were a hawk poised to strike. The pressures of rising within this family were growing heavier with each passing day. While I continued to forge my identity, it was clear that my journey towards acknowledgement would not come without looming conflict. The festival was approaching, becoming an almost magnetic focal point in my life. I could feel the buzz and anticipation in the air, and my excitement was palpable. This would be my chance not merely to present my blend, but to showcase my worth as a winemaker and a member of the Rossi family. I envisioned the scene, my blend perfectly displayed, teasing the senses of those who had often doubted me. Each sip taken by my in-laws could potentially lead to a transformation of my standing, or even my identity as part of their lineage. I was ready to emerge from the shadows, to stand firmly in the spotlight I had long been denied. With fervor in my heart and a steadfast resolve, I began to craft my blend, allowing my journey's struggles to guide my hands. I was no longer pacified as a quiet participant at the family table. I was becoming a force to be reckoned with, determined to carve my name boldly into the foundation of this illustrious family. I looked forward to the festival. It could very well be the moment where I would finally claim my rightful place in the legacy of the Rossi family. As the festival approached, tension hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. I woke up each day feeling the weight of anticipation pressing down on my shoulders. My vineyard had become both my sanctuary and battleground. I spent every waking moment meticulously refining my blend, pouring my heart and soul into it, convinced that this would be my moment to shine. But Renata's presence loomed large, and I could sense her determination to uphold the family legacy at any cost. On the eve of the festival, I overheard Renata conspiring with Cecilia, just as I was finalizing the last cases of my wine. I paused, hiding behind a display, heart racing as they plotted against me. Renata's voice was sharp and venomous. "We cannot let Lucrezia bring her blend to the forefront. It could diminish our family name," she hissed. My anger boiled as I realized they were intent on sabotaging my moment. My mind whirled. This was not just a festival. It was a battleground for my identity. The morning of the festival arrived, and I woke before dawn, the resolve solidifying within me like steel. I knew I needed to present my blend not just as a beverage, but as a testament to my hard work and passion. I arranged my booth meticulously, ensuring that every detail was perfect, my heart pounding with both excitement and anxiety. But as the crowd began to fill the venue, it became painfully clear that Renata and Cecilia were working their charm, steering people away from my display. My pulse quickened as I noticed them engaging with festival goers, their smiles orchestrated performances designed to cast doubt on my efforts. Anger surged through me, but I refused to be silenced. I took a deep breath, centered myself, and stepped forward to greet patrons, pouring my blend with enthusiasm. When Marina, a respected wine expert, approached my booth, I felt a flicker of hope. "What do you have for us today, Lucrezia?" she asked, her eyes glimmering with curiosity. I explained my blend, the unique combination of grapes, the love and labor that went into crafting it. With every articulation, I watched her nod, and as she tasted it, time seemed to freeze. Her reaction was nothing short of exhilarating. "This is exceptional," she proclaimed, and a wave of relief washed over me. Her endorsement was powerful, but in the corner of my eye, I saw Renata witnessing her approval, fury simmering beneath her composed demeanor. And then, the confidence I had built came crashing down as Renata ambushed us. "Marina, while I appreciate your enthusiasm, let us not forget what truly defines the Rossi legacy: tradition. Lucrezia's blend, while creative, cannot compete with what we've established through decades of refinement." Her voice dripped with condescension, seeking to undermine my work while reinforcing her authority. The tension in the air crackled, and I felt a surge of adrenaline ignite my determination. I rallied my courage. "Renata, is it not time that we embrace growth alongside tradition? Without innovation, we stifle our legacy. My blend is not a rebellion, it's an evolution," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. Silence enveloped our group, eyes darting between us as whispers of surprise rippled through the crowd. In that charged moment, Marco stepped forward, ever my ally. He interjected with calm authority. "Lucrezia's meticulous work deserves acknowledgement, Renata. It adds richness to our family story, not detracts from it." The energy of the crowd shifted. My heart soared as I sensed a change in perception. People nodded in agreement. Even murmurs of approval echoed around us. Renata could see her control slipping. I could sense her fury brewing. A storm forced to retreat but not far from returning. Yet the attention was now on me, my blend breaking through the barriers of doubt she had constructed. I poured samples for eager festival goers, each sip igniting conversations about the future of Rossi wines. And I saw connections form, a network of supporters rallying around my journey. Despite her best efforts, Renata regarded me with a new blend of anger and respect, uncertain of how to respond. I could see the cracks beginning to show in her unwavering facade. And for the first time, I allowed myself to feel hope. This was no longer just about me. This was about redefining how the Rossi legacy could embrace change without sacrificing its core values. The day flowed on, and I felt a surge of pride swell within me. I watched as the crowd gravitated toward my booth, laughter and conversation enveloping us like a warm embrace. I had transformed into not just a participant, but a key player in the family narrative, my passion shining through with every pore. As the festival began to wane, I took a moment to step back, appraising the scene around me, the love I had for winemaking flourishing as I engaged with new friends, supporters and allies, everyone intrigued by what I had created. I had emerged from the shadows, carving my place in the Rossi story while Renata's plans crumbled before her. In that pivotal moment, I learned that it was not enough to merely confront the past. I needed to embrace the nuances of the future I was building. The tension with Renata would not dissolve overnight, but I felt fortified, ready to face whatever came next. As the sun began to set, I realized this was only the beginning of my journey, one where the blend of tradition and innovation would flourish together, symbolizing the strength of our family. Winning the hearts of those who had doubted me was triumphant. but a deeper recognition had begun to unfold. My growth was intertwined with the very legacy we stood to uphold, one that could withstand the tests of time. With renewed purpose, I prepared to continue this journey, ready for the next chapter, no longer held captive by fear but propelled by determination. As the glow of the festival faded, I found myself replaying the events, not just the victories but the unsettling feeling that Renata's machinations were far from over. Despite the recognition my blend received, the unease clung to me like a shadow. Deep down, I sensed Renata would not allow my triumph to go unchallenged. I needed to uncover the extent of her scheming. One evening, enveloped by the quiet of the vineyard, I wandered through the moonlit rows of vines, my mind racing. The celebration of my blend felt like a surface triumph masking deeper, more insidious threats. Renata had orchestrated her defenses well, and I was worried she was planning her next moves behind the scenes. The thought alone ignited a simmering determination within me. I resolved to delve deeper into Renata's hidden agenda. I needed information, something substantial that would expose her tactics. I decided to enlist the help of Giovanni, a young vineyard staff member who had proven to be resourceful and observant. His insight into the family dynamics was valuable. I found him sweeping the patio one evening, and approached him with my suspicions. "Have you ever overheard any plans about the distribution of our blends?" I asked, my voice urgent. Giovanni hesitated for a moment before nodding, his expression serious. "I've noticed Renata meeting with distributors far too often." Those words sparked a fire in me. As we spoke, it became clear. Renata was sowing seeds of doubt about my blend, maneuvering to secure her power. I realized I needed more than just hearsay. I needed concrete evidence of her betrayal. Giovanni agreed to help gather information, understanding the risks involved but also recognizing the injustice of Renata's schemes. As weeks passed, Giovanni and I plotted carefully. He gained access to one of Renata's key distributor meetings, utilizing his knack for blending into the background. The day of the meeting arrived, and I felt a mixture of anxiety and adrenaline. Giovanni's stealth was crucial. I anxiously awaited his return, praying he had captured the evidence I needed to confront Renata publicly. When he finally returned, his eyes gleamed with urgency. "I have something," he said, handing me a flash drive filled with audio recordings and notes from the meeting. I felt my heartbeat quicken as I examined the contents. They detailed Renata's plans to negate my blend's market presence and reassure distributors about her own. It was damning evidence, the proof I needed to expose her deception. The urgency surged within me. I set the stage for the family meeting scheduled for the end of the week, where I would confront Renata with this newfound evidence. Standing in front of the mirror, I rehearsed my speech, adrenaline pumping as I reminded myself of my worth and the journey I had undertaken. This was more than just about me. It was about the integrity of our family's legacy. On the day of the meeting, I stepped into the room with a fierce determination. My heart raced against my chest as I greeted family members, anticipation crackling in the air. Renata began the meeting, her voice smooth but strained as she suggested strategies for marketing our wines. I felt my pulse quicken. It was time to intervene. "Actually, I believe there's something we need to discuss regarding our distribution strategy," I interjected, holding up the flash drive. The room fell silent, every gaze pinned on me, and I knew I had their attention. "This is evidence of your attempts to discredit my blend, Renata." I revealed the recordings and notes, providing a clear picture of her attempts to manipulate the situation in her favor. Gasps spread through the room, and Renata's expression shifted from confidence to disbelief. The very foundations of her power began to shake. I continued, determined to advocate for my place in the family. "This isn't just about competition. It's about the direction we choose to take as a family moving forward. We should be lifting each other up, not tearing each other down." As I spoke, something in the atmosphere shifted. Family members started murmuring in support of my words, their nods of agreement becoming more spirited. Marco stepped forward, his voice rising above the murmurs. "Lucrezia is right. This family can't move forward if we're divided. We owe it to ourselves to support one another, not sabotage." My heart soared as more voices joined in, standing in solidarity against Renata's schemes. Renata, cornered and exposed, struggled for words but found none. The tension in the room reached a boiling point. I could feel it swirling around us like a tempest. My resolve solidified amid the storm, and I knew this was a pivotal moment that would shape our family's future. Determined to unveil the truth, I pressed on, advocating for collaboration and the strength of unity. Renata, by acting out of fear, you're undermining not just my efforts, but the entire legacy of the Rossi family. We must embrace change together, as a family. Realizing my words were resonating, I took a breath and stood tall. As the session evolved into a confrontation of ideals, it became clear that Renata's grip was loosening. The tide of support shifted. Family members began vocalizing their frustrations about her approach, echoing my sentiments. The solidarity felt electric, as though a new path was being forged right before our eyes. The meeting concluded, but I knew the ripple effects of the revelations would last far longer. As people dispersed, I felt vindicated, the weight of the world lifting off my shoulders. I had faced Renata's deceit head-on, and together, we had charted a new course rooted in unity and hope. There would surely be challenges ahead, but the truth had emerged, and alongside it, a more collaborative future began to take shape. I realized that confronting Renata had not only empowered me, it had redefined my role within our family's legacy. Together, we had turned a corner, one where tradition and innovation could merge into a bright new path forward. In the weeks following the family meeting, everything transformed. What had begun as a confrontation with Renata morphed into a rejuvenating force that swept through the entire Rossi family. Over the dinner table, the tone changed. Conversations shifted from whispers of rivalry to discussions of collaboration. I watched with renewed vigor as family members began to share ideas and perspectives that had long been suppressed. Trust, once frayed, was being woven back into the fabric of our relationships. The first step toward healing came when Renata approached me one evening. Her demeanor softened from the hostile posturing I had previously known. Lucrezia, I realize now how consumed I was by fear of losing our family's legacy. I'm sorry for my actions. They were misguided, she admitted, her tone sincere and her posture more open. Caught off guard, I felt a mixture of triumph and compassion. My initial reaction was to hold on to my anger, to remind her of the pain she had caused. But the purity of her apology pierced through my defenses. It's a process, Renata, I replied, my voice steady yet gentle. We can rebuild trust, but we have to move forward together. I can't carry this burden alone. To my surprise, she nodded, and for the first time, I sensed a willingness in her to collaborate, to truly acknowledge my contributions. This exchange was pivotal. It marked the beginning of a cautious truce. With her support, we made a joint effort to craft new marketing strategies for our vineyard. Over the next month, ideas flowed like the wine we produced. We hosted brainstorming sessions at the vineyard, our laughter cutting through the once tense atmosphere. I could see the family slowly coming together. The harvest season approached, and with it, the possibility of launching a new line that combined both our blends. The fusion of our styles. My innovative approach merged with her traditional elements, created a unique product that showcased the depth of our collective talents. As the anticipation built, I often found myself walking through the vineyard, marveling at how the vines flourished. Our labor over the years had not been in vain. It had sprouted a fresh understanding between us that began to bear fruit. Renata and I spent late nights working on labels, creating tasting notes, and establishing samples to present at the upcoming regional wine fair. Amid this momentum, a closer bond began to forge between us. Late nights turned into heart-to-heart conversations. We shared personal stories. I learned about the insecurities she had faced while trying to uphold the family reputation, and she listened as I recounted my struggles for recognition. Bonding beyond our roles in the vineyard unveiled a camaraderie that surprised us both. Each shared vulnerability mustered a deeper sense of respect, and slowly, we transformed our relationship from rivals into allies. When the day of the regional wine fair finally arrived, I was both nervous and excited. As we set up our booth, half traditional, half innovative, the buzz of the fair enveloped us. The scent of earth and grapes mingled in the air, and people thronged the venue, eager to taste what we had created together. Renata was animated as she poured samples of our unique blend, the pride dancing in her eyes. I reflected on how far we'd come. Months ago, we had been at each other's throats. Yet now we stood side by side, representing our family legacy in harmony. As the crowd thickened, familiar faces from the festival strolled by. Marina, the wine expert, approached our booth, her curiosity piqued. I couldn't resist visiting your booth again. I've heard so much about the blend you two have developed. With our samples in hand, I felt the adrenaline surge through me. This time, there was no doubt. This was a moment where both tradition and innovation would culminate successfully. As I poured the wine into small glasses, I felt Renata's presence beside me. Together, we explained the journey behind the creation. Our passion intertwined beautifully with our product. Marina tasted it slowly, her expression shifting from curiosity to delight. This is fantastic. The depth combined with the unique notes you've incorporated is exquisite. A wonderful tribute to your family's legacy, she declared, and I basked in the validation of our hard work. The feedback from the fair was overwhelmingly positive. People returned for seconds, thirds, praising our innovative combination. I glanced at Renata, who was soaking in the accolades with a big smile. With each compliment, I felt our bond deepen further. It was an exhilarating feeling, one that acknowledged not only our wine but also the journey that had led us here. Though we were on a high, a part of me remained cautious. I could not ignore the threads of doubt that had once managed to weave their way between us. I worried whether this newfound unity was fragile. Would the specter of rivalry return? Those fears lingered in my mind like a whisper, but today was about celebration, not trepidation. I pushed those thoughts aside, choosing to focus on the present. After the fair, we organized a celebratory dinner for our family and staff. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we raised our glasses in a toast to resilience, collaboration, and family. It felt surreal to share this moment with Renata. To think of everything that had transpired. Each clink of glasses marked a victory of sorts, a testament to the journey toward becoming allies. The night rolled on with animated discussions and laughter echoing around the table. Stories were exchanged about the vineyard, humor punctuating the air as we recounted our early days of winemaking. In each recounting, I felt the family draw closer, the laughter serving to more actively stitch the fabric of connection that we once had. If anyone had told me a year ago that I would sit at this table sharing a toast alongside Renata, I would have laughed in disbelief. But as I looked around at the family sharing in this moment with me, I felt a warmth blossom inside. We had weathered the storm, and together, we could face whatever challenges might lie ahead. With each shared tale and resounding laughter, I realized our story was evolving. We were not just a family bound by tradition, but one ready to embrace the new. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of hope. I believed in our collective potential, not only for our vineyard but as a family redefining what legacy truly meant. Together, we had turned a page in our story, and with it, we carried the promise of a brighter future. As dawn broke over the vineyard, I felt the weight of the past lift. The air buzzed with potential, overflowing with optimism following our regional wine fair. Renata and I stood together at the vineyard's entrance, gazing at the promising rows of grapes, imagining the future we could cultivate together. With our combined insights, there's no limit to what we can create, she said, her excitement reflecting my own. Her words resonated within me, and I felt a renewed energy as we brainstormed the next steps for our family's legacy. With Renata's suggestion, we planned a community event to unveil our new blend. Let's host a tasting night at the vineyard, she proposed, and I felt a thrill of anticipation. The idea of showcasing our collaboration felt like a culmination of our shared journey. As weeks passed, preparations transformed the vineyard. We strung lights, arranged seating, and extended invitations throughout the community. Excitement buzzed in the air as we geared up for the big night. I found myself wrapped in a wave of energy, eager to celebrate this new chapter. On the event night, sunset painted the sky, creating a magical backdrop. The atmosphere was lively with laughter, conversation, and the warm scent of food paired with our wine. Friends, family, and locals gathered, each sip a toast to our reborn partnership. I poured the new blend into glasses, the flavors echoing the harmony we had found. Renata stood beside me, sharing in every moment. As guests savored our creation, I felt deep gratitude wash over me. The stories shared throughout the evening reaffirmed the essence of family. With each toast, we built on our foundation of trust and collaboration. I felt the pride swelling in my chest, realizing that this wasn't just about the wine but about redefining the very fabric of our family. Dancing under the stars, surrounded by warmth and joy, I reflected on our journey from rivalry to unity. The barriers that once haunted us dissipated in the night air, leaving only the promise of a shared future. Renata and I, once adversaries, now stood side by side, ready to nurture our legacy together. As the celebration continued, I slipped away for a moment, wandering through the serene rows of vines. The moonlit landscape felt sacred, each leaf a reminder of our hard work. I inhaled the sweet scent of earth and grapes, embracing the tranquility that surrounded me. In that intimate stillness, I knew that our efforts were about to bear fruit. Returning to the festivities, every laugh and every word reminded me of our collective journey. I felt a sense of belonging, wrapped in the community's warmth and friendship. This evening, I realized, marked the true beginning of our new path, a celebration of resilience and collaboration. As the night drew to a close, I made a silent vow to safeguard this bond. With every toast and shared smile, my heart filled with hope for our future. Together, Renata and I were embarking on a new legacy, one that would flourish for generations. With our commitment intact, I knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful story, one of growth, unity, and unshakable love.